Chadini and I randomly started cooking, and I'm glad I did because it's something that I can't picture myself not doing now.
Hey everyone, I am Hash from Hash Delhi. I have a small home business. I have been running it for over 12 years.
As cliche as it sounds, I find cooking quite therapeutic, and I love having friends and family over and cooking up a whole bunch of dishes for them.
I'd always baked with my mom, but then that was tedious. You mix the butter and the sugar for the longest time and it takes the whole day.
Cooking to me is something that I do with a lot of passion and something that I put a lot of heart and soul into.
If you have a really good cake, everybody's going to be talking about it. It lifts up your mood. For me, if it's a really good dessert, people stop talking. They go, when they taste it, and that's the reaction we want.
I'm really excited to share these dishes with you, and I hope you enjoy making them. This is my homemade.
So I'm very excited to be joining you all for 4 episodes. This is my homemade.
Hi and welcome to another episode of Homemade. My name is Chadini from Percy and B. I love to cook because, as cliche as it sounds, it's quite therapeutic and it's something that I love to do. And I love to cook for my family and friends all the time. Today I'll be making a mushroom and cashew rice. It's a really easy dish to make. It's super simple but really full of flavor. And the ingredients we'll need today are basmati rice, some butter, salt, pepper, garlic, spring onions or onion leaves, onions, mushrooms, cashew, and some vegetable stock or broth. So what we're going to first do is we're going to cut up the button mushrooms. You can chop them up either really thin or you can have it in chunks. It's your personal preference. I prefer them in kind of chunky but kind of sliced as well. Once we chop up the mushrooms, we save half for later and we use the other half to fry it now. What we first do is we add some olive oil into a pan. And then we add half the chopped mushrooms onto the pan. Salt. Just a tad bit. A little bit of pepper as well. So we need cashews for the rice as well, and we need roasted cashews. And a really easy way to roast cashews is you just put them onto a plate and you pop them in the microwave for about 3 to 4 minutes. It needs to be cooked for about another 2 minutes or so, and then it should be done. So the mushrooms are done now, so we can take them off the stove. Put it onto a bowl and save it for later. and we add the onions. And give it a bit of a stir. A little bit of garlic into it and give it a good mix. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Now we can add the rest of the mushrooms that we saved for later and mix the onion, garlic and mushrooms together. So I'm going to add a little bit more now. And we let this fry for a little bit longer. A little bit of the broth onto the pan and we mix it in. And then we add the rice into the pan as well. Mix it all in really well so all the flavors get mixed up in the rice. You can add a little bit of butter now if you want for some extra flavor. Just a tiny bit. Give it a little bit of a mix. And then you bring the heat to high and let it simmer to a simmer, and then we can reduce the heat a little bit, and we need to cook it for about 15 to 20 minutes till the water evaporates. So now the rice is done. We can switch off the stove and open it up, and we can take some butter and just add it in for some extra flavor. And fluff it through the rice. Can let it cool down a little bit. Now for the garnish, we can chop up some spring onions or onion leaves. This adds a nice crunch to the dish. And I think the cashews are done now as well. So we just grab them out of the microwave. Now we can grab a dish and plate the rice. Now we can top this off with some of our mushrooms that we fried in the beginning, the roasted cashews. Then we top it off with the onion leaves and we're done. So now my dish is done and I'm going to give it a bit of a taste. Smells really good. Like I said, it's a really easy dish to make, but it's full of flavor and all these elements come together to make it a really good dish. So this is my homemade and I hope you try it at home.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Homemade. I'm Hash. I am the owner and baker at Hash Deli. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram. And today we are going to learn about sponge cake or Swiss roll. The base is absolutely the same, and I've already got the eggs in here. There are 4 eggs and I have 100 grams of granulated sugar. You know, I always use granulated sugar. I just get the regular sugar and I grind it. And you can use 100 grams of self-raising flour or 100 grams of regular flour. Just add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So that's what I've done. I've just used regular flour and added baking powder. That's it. first I'm gonna add the sugar to the eggs, and it's a little bit stubborn today, it doesn't want to get out of its bowl, and that's it. This is ready. And how do you know that this is ready? Everybody wants to know how to get the right sponge roll consistency, and if you can write something on it and it kind of holds its own for a little while at least, then you know it's ready. Right. Now I have my 100 grams of flour with my 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and I need to fold this. I'm gonna put just 1/3 at first, and this is a very handy sifter that I kept aside just for this purpose, and just very lightly fold it. Don't worry about getting it all, because you're gonna do this again and again. All right, and then a little bit more. Be gentle at this point because you do not want to lose any of the bubbles. And very lightly, as I'm doing this, I'm scraping the bottom because flour tends to sink to the bottom. So when you're pouring in the Swiss roll batter, you'll discover that there's a whole blob of flour at the bottom of the egg mixture. So it looks quite good and thick. We haven't lost most of the bubbles. Let's pour it all in. And let me tell you, like, I have not tasted, I have not oiled the pan. I've just put a piece of baking paper at the bottom. That's all you need. You need a dry pan for this. You do not want an oily pan or a greased and floured pan. Push it to the edges very carefully. Again, you would not want to burst any of the bubbles. We don't want to lose that. You don't want a watery and overly liquidy batter. Get it to the edges. Right, let's get this baking. And you need to bake this at 190 degrees for about 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, if it looks undone, bake it for another 1 minute. And we are going to put it in the oven right now. Okay guys, I'm gonna share one of my most trusted and loved recipes of all time, my passion fruit curd. You must have seen it being sold in some other cafes as well. And so I'm gonna tell you how ridiculously easy it is to make this. And it's just 4 ingredients. It's just 3 yolks, and you want large yolks, not teeny tiny ones, and some more granulated sugar. So one thing about granulated sugar and passion fruit, because passion fruit is already really sweet, what I do is I get the same amount of passion fruit as sugar. So there's 60 grams of passion fruit pulp and 60 grams of sugar as well. Just dump it all in. So I'm just gonna dump the rest of my ingredients in like so. There's no art to it. You don't have to watch, you know, every little movement of mine, because this is very simple. Yeah, no whites here guys, because whites tend to kind of overcook and you might have like white strands of egg in it. You don't want that. So this is how it's gonna look. Yeah, so I'm just gonna mix it a little bit just to get the yolks broken. Yeah, but you can see the butter hasn't melted or anything. I just took it straight out of the fridge. It's not room temperature or anything. You can take a frozen butter for all I care, because the butter will melt once you get this going. So stretch out your arms a little bit. Yeah, you need that elbow to work well. Yeah, switch on the cooker. I prefer these old fashioned things because that's what I'm used to. I need to see the flame. So you need to have the flame on low. Yeah, and now keep mixing in a circular motion. Make sure you are not missing any part, you know, you don't want the egg cooked in any one place. This is it. This is all I'm going to be doing for the next so many minutes. Just keep mixing it. Okay guys, now it's becoming thick. Can you see how it's kind of beginning to stick to the bottom? If you're making a small portion of passion fruit curd, I highly recommend you use a smaller pan. So this is it. So you take it off the pan, off the fire, and keep mixing for about a good 4 minutes more. So I feel like this pan has got a little too hot too soon. I'm gonna dump it back into this just because I don't want it getting overcooked. And keep mixing, you guys, because you want a really smooth passion fruit curd. You don't want anything chunky. Beautiful. Look at that color with no artificial colors. You should taste it. It's amazing. It's like liquid gold. And we are done with the passion fruit curd. So at this point you can decide whether you want it with seeds or you want to strain the seeds, because it's basically personal choice, but I usually strain it, but completely up to you. So if you feel that this is a little too liquidy, keep it in the fridge for about, you know, you can keep it covered in the fridge for a good 5 days with no problem. Okay you guys, so the Swiss roll is out of the oven and it looks like this. It looks gorgeous and we need to work really fast. You have to sprinkle a paper, a good solid baking paper with granulated sugar. Icing sugar even is fine. Loosen the Swiss roll from all around, all over, and let's slowly take it out. Please do not let this cool down in the pan. You will not be able to remove it from the paper. Now I need the help of my trusty spatula. It is looking gorgeous, you guys. Ignore tiny bits where it's got stuck to the paper. Just focus on what you can do. And very quickly, with the paper itself, roll it. Roll it as tightly as possible. You don't need to rush. You can take a little bit of time and roll it all up all the way to the edge. And if you can, keep something to hold it in place while it cools down. And that's it. All we do at this point is let it cool down while it's rolled up. So it's cooled down quite a bit, and that's enough for us. It shouldn't be too hot when you unroll it. If it's warm, it's fine, because once you apply the fruit puree or whatever you like, it will cool down. So guys, conveniently I had my homemade passion fruit curd that I made earlier, and I am just gonna generously apply it all over, because this is just so delicious and you want a mouthful of it when you cut it into the Swiss roll. So make sure you get it to the edges. You don't want to disappoint anybody. And we are done with the passion curd. So now I have some whipped cream, all whipped at home, and this I'm not gonna take to the edges, guys. I just want a little bit in the middle, because when you roll it out, you don't want it pouring out. It still will pour out, but let's minimize the outpouring of cream. And yes, we are done. We don't want to put too much cream. You'll see why when I'm rolling it back up. So let's roll this back up. If you need, you can get the support of the baking paper. It will hold it together. And yes. So if we had put more cream, this would just pour out and it will not look nice. I got sugar all over my hands, but that's fine. I'm going to place the Swiss roll here. And look how gorgeous that is and how ridiculously simple. So this is great for any occasion, whether you're taking it to a friend's place or brunch or even as a dinner party dessert. It's perfect. And you can always use strawberry jam or any sort of jam and no cream. You can forget the cream altogether. It will still be absolutely delicious. Just make sure that it has a liquid that will make the sponge very moist. Right, so I'm going to take a small piece with the cream and the passion. So good. And guys, please try this at home. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact me. I am Hash from Hash Delhi. I'm on Facebook, I am on Instagram, and you can always send me a message and ask me what's what, where to find ingredients, and if you have any questions about what I've made today. And thank you so much for joining me again on another episode of Homemade.